In the winter of 170 AD, on the frozen banks of the Danube, a Roman emperor sat alone in his tent. Outside, war, disease spreading through his army, a son he had buried, a wife he didn't fully trust, an empire that could collapse any day. And yet, that night, he didn't write about war strategy, he didn't write about politics, he wrote to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. His name was Marcus Aurelius. And that single line has quietly saved more overthinkers than any therapy session ever advertised online. If your mind replays conversations at 1 a.m., if you rehearse arguments that never happened, if you've mentally lived out disasters that never occurred, this video is for you. Let's be honest about something first. Overthinking doesn't feel like a flaw when you're doing it. It feels like preparation. It feels like control. Your mind tells you, if I think about this enough, I will be ready. I won't be caught off guard. But the Stoics understood something most people miss. Overthinking isn't protection. It's a misplaced attempt to control things that were never within your control in the first place. Marcus Aurelius separated life into two categories over and over again in his private journal, which we now call meditations. First, things within our control, our judgments, our choices, our effort, our reactions. Second, things outside our control, other people's opinions, the past, the future, outcomes. Overthinking happens when we try to mentally solve category 2, as if enough thinking could control someone else's opinion of us or guarantee a future outcome. It can't. And some part of you already knows that. That's why overthinking never actually resolves anything. It just loops. There's a reason it loops instead of resolving. Real problem-solving moves forward. You think, you decide, you act. It's done. Overthinking has no finish line because the thing you're trying to control was never yours to control. So your mind just keeps circling the same closed door, looking for a handle that isn't there. Think about the last time you overthought something, a job interview, a message you sent, a decision you made. Did the thinking actually change the outcome? Or did it just cost you a few hours of peace for nothing? That's not a character flaw. It's just a mind doing what minds do when they mistake worry for work. Here's where it gets practical. Step 1. Separate the event from the story. Marcus wrote, "It's not events that disturb people, it's their judgments about events. Something happens, a text left unread, a mistake at work, a silence from someone you love. That's the event, neutral, small, over in seconds. But then your mind adds a story. They're upset with me. I'm going to get fired. This means they don't care. The event lasted a second. The story you built around it can run in your head for days. Try this the next time you catch yourself overthinking. Pause and ask, what actually happened? And what am I adding to it? 9 times out of 10, you'll find the event was small. The suffering came from the story. Here's what this looks like in real life. Say a friend doesn't reply to your message for 2 days. The event? No reply. 2 days. The story your mind might build. They're avoiding me. I said something wrong. Maybe they're done with this friendship. Notice, none of that story is a fact. It's a prediction, built entirely inside your own head, and you're now feeling the weight of it as if it already happened. Marcus would ask, what do you actually know? Only that there's been no reply. Everything else is a chapter you wrote yourself, and then chose to suffer through, as if someone else had written it. It's the same pattern at work. You send a proposal to your manager, no response for a day. Suddenly, you're replaying every sentence. wondering if you sounded incompetent, imagining the meeting where they quietly decide you're not cut out for this. None of that happened. All that happened is you sent something and haven't heard back yet. The rest is a performance your mind is putting on, with you as both the writer and the audience suffering through it. Step 2. Return to what's yours. Ask yourself one Stoic question and mean it. Is this within my control right now? If yes, act. Not think. Act. Send the message. Fix the mistake. Have the conversation. If no, and be brutally honest here, then no amount of thinking will change it. Thinking about an uncontrollable outcome isn't preparation. It's just suffering in advance. Step 3. Use the view from above. Marcus often imagined looking down at Earth from a great height, watching all of human history, all the empires, all the worry, shrink into nothing. You don't need to imagine the whole planet. Just try this. Imagine looking back on this exact worry 5 years from now. Will it still matter? Will you even remember it? Most of what keeps us up at night is invisible in 5 years. The Stoics used this not to dismiss their problems, but to right-size them. Step 4. Name it, don't just feel it. The Stoics had a habit of stripping a worry down to plain, factual language. No drama, no story, just the bare description. Instead of everything is falling apart, you say, I have one deadline this week and one difficult conversation to have. Instead of they hate me now, you say, I don't know what they think. I haven't spoken to them. This isn't about pretending things are fine. It's about refusing to let your mind exaggerate a situation into something bigger and scarier than it actually is. Overthinking thrives on vague, dramatic language. Precision kills it. Step 5. Face the worst case on purpose. The Stoics had another tool for this, one that sounds strange at first. They called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. Instead of avoiding the scary thought, they'd sit with it deliberately for a few minutes on their own terms. Ask yourself directly, what's the actual worst realistic outcome here? Not the vague dread your mind keeps circling, but the specific, named result. Say it plainly. If this goes badly, I lose this client. If they don't reply, this friendship fades. Then ask, could I survive that? Would I still have a life worth living? Almost always the honest answer is yes, and something strange happens once you've faced the worst case directly. The vague, formless dread that fueled the overthinking loses its grip. You've already looked at it. There's nothing left to circle. This is the opposite of what overthinking does. Overthinking keeps the fear vague and endless, replaying without ever landing anywhere. Premeditatio Malorum names the fear once, faces it, and lets you move on. Marcus Aurelius wasn't writing meditations for an audience. No one was supposed to read it. It was a private journal, a man talking to himself, correcting himself, calming himself down, night after night. That's the real lesson often missed. He still struggled. He wasn't naturally calm. He had to practice this over and over for years. So here's a simple version of his practice you can start tonight. Before bed, take 2 minutes. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I let disturb me today that wasn't actually in my control? What's one thing I can still act on tomorrow? 5 years from now, will this matter? Write the answers down if you can. Not to solve everything, just to separate the event from the story and hand back what was never yours to carry. This is exactly what meditations actually is if you strip away the reputation around it. It's not a polished self-help book. It's a man doing this exercise badly some nights, better on others, for years, because he understood that a calm mind isn't something you arrive at once and keep forever. It's something you rebuild daily on purpose. You don't need a journal as elegant as his, a notes app, a scrap of paper, 2 minutes before you sleep. That's the whole practice. There's no version of this where you master it once and never overthink again. Marcus didn't. Some entries in Meditations repeat the same lesson he'd already written weeks earlier because he'd forgotten it again and had to remind himself again. That repetition isn't failure. It's the practice itself. A calm mind isn't a permanent state you unlock. It's a muscle you keep returning to. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, and still, some nights his mind spiraled just like yours does. The difference wasn't that he had fewer problems, it's that he kept returning to one idea, night after night. You don't control what happens, you only control how you meet it. That's not a quick fix. It's not motivational noise, it's a practice. One line in a journal, repeated for years by a man who needed to hear it just as much as we do. So tonight, when your mind starts running, pause, ask what's actually yours to carry, and let the rest go.